Our first speaker today is Tracy Asher. Tracy started her breast cancer journey here in 2014, and it hasn't been the easiest as she has relayed to me. But there are things that have helped her through, and she has documented this so beautifully in a photo journal of the entire process in hopes that she can provide others some insight into this horrible process that she had to live through, but she's here today to share her experience. So welcome, Tracy.
I wasn't sure that I was going to have to hold a microphone. I'm so honored to be here speaking with you alongside the people responsible for saving my life in many ways, many times. Each cancer diagnosis creates its own story, of which we are forced to become the author. While we may share a diagnosis and be united against this disease, ultimately we are each one cancer patient. Cancer does not define us, but we cannot deny the impact it's had on our lives. We are more than survivors, we are thrivers. As thrivers, we can choose to look toward the future instead of clinging to the past and use our experiences to learn from and grow and not be limited by brokenness. I was first diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer on July 31st, 2014 at the age of 39. 3 years after that, I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, which appeared in the vertebrae of my neck. 2 years later, after complaining of headaches and dizziness, I went to Providence St. Joseph's ER and was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer on the left side of my cerebellum. In the beginning, I felt guilty about missing the obvious mass in my right breast. I then realized that although I knew how to examine myself, I never really knew what I was feeling around for, and I soon discovered that most women don't. So, as I told my female friends about my situation, I offered them the chance to see what it felt like. The only personal experience I had of breast cancer came from when my mom survived it 28 years before. And it made me mad that until I was being cared for here at the Disney Family Cancer Center, no one ever thought to test me for the BRCA gene mutation. A woman positive with BRCA is approximately 80% at risk of breast cancer. So after I tested positive for BRCA, I began advocating that my mom and sister, and then other women and men, find a genetic counselor like the one here and find out if they're at risk, with the understanding that a positive result meant a personal decision about prophylactic surgeries. I'm often asked how I kept dealing with the news of another diagnosis, and the answer is a simple one. Each time, I cry for 30 minutes, regain my composure, and prepare myself to start asking questions. The steps are always the same. I grieve, I plan, and then I prepare. Just like every cancer patient before me, I was terrified of the unknown. I was afraid that everything was going to be painful. I obsessed about what I was going to look like. Then, transitioning back into normal life felt just as debilitating as the fear of the actual cancer diagnosis, because now what? It's likely we find ourselves fluctuating between hope and loneliness, or confusing grief with negativity. Introspection can feel prickly, but we can do it. Think of all the hurdles we've already soared over. Utilizing all the thoughtful resources this place has to offer, I've come to understand that it's okay to have contradictory emotions, while rejoining life, heading towards remission. I could look at my scars and feel flawed, but I don't. I see a new version of myself that I'm learning to love more each day. Whenever I'm offered the opportunity to tell my story, I always end it the same way. I read the last chapter of my book, One Cancer Patient, and I dedicate it to someone who, because of cancer, has recently become their forever age. Sadly and painfully, there's always been someone. So tonight, as I read the chapter and finally, I'm dedicating it to two men. Bob, who had been a family friend of more than 55 years, and Eddie, who was an instrumental part of starting my career. And finally this, start thinking of yourself as a superhero, because you are one. When friends started calling me a warrior, or after my oncologist referred to me as a Wonder Woman, I was too modest to agree. It seemed that I was just doing what I must in order to survive, and that didn't feel particularly heroic. After all, what choice did I have? But after moving through my own journey, as well as witnessing those of so many others, it suddenly occurred to me that after all we've gone through, we've become thrivers, and that makes us fierce forces of nature. Now, what I feel most often is victorious, and you will too, however your story may turn out. We tend to focus on the outcome as a measure of success, but the real win is that you still got in the ring and put up your dukes. So I'll meet you after the fight. Thank you for having me here, and all that Providence and the Disney Family Cancer Center does for the mind, body, and souls. I didn't even know that was up there until tonight. Of patients and their loved ones. You're all simply amazing, and we appreciate you.